The creature was dying when Flynn Cross found it. He'd been crawling through the wreckage of his scout ship for 6 hours, leg broken, oxygen gauge ticking down toward zero, when his helmet light caught the movement. Something small, shivering, pressed against the hull breach where vacuum had nearly claimed them both. Flynn froze, every instinct screaming predator, but the thing didn't lunge. It whimpered, a sound that shouldn't exist in space. He dragged himself closer, pain white-hot through his femur, and saw it clearly for the first time. No bigger than a house cat. 6 limbs folded tight against a body covered in something between fur and scales, shifting colors like oil on water. 2 enormous eyes, black and reflective, locked onto him, pleading. Flynn had seen plenty of alien species in his 5 years hauling cargo through contested space. This wasn't any of them. The creature's breathing was shallow, irregular. One of its middle limbs bent at an unnatural angle. Blood, or something like it, pooled beneath its small body, luminescent blue against the dark floor. It made that sound again, that impossible whimper that bypassed every wall Flynn had built and went straight to the part of him that remembered what it meant to care. "You're not supposed to be here," Flynn said, voice rough through the helmet speaker. The creature blinked, slowly, like it understood. Flynn looked at his oxygen gauge. 4 hours, maybe 5 if he stayed still, conserved energy, waited for a rescue that might never come. His emergency beacon was fried. The UEF Vanguard was 3 days away at minimum burn. The threshold gate had collapsed during the attack, stranding him in this nowhere system with wreckage and silence. He could ration his supplies, extend his survival window, or he could waste them on something that probably wouldn't live another hour. Flynn pulled the ration pack from his emergency kit, standard protein gel, fortified with nutrients designed for human metabolism, probably poison to whatever this thing was. He squeezed a small amount onto his gloved finger and held it out. The creature didn't move. "Come on," Flynn whispered. "You came this far." A long moment passed. Then the creature stretched its neck, impossibly long, and its tongue, triple-forked and delicate, touched the gel. It recoiled immediately, but then tried again. This time it took more. Its eyes never left Flynn's face. He fed it the entire pack, watched its breathing steady, watched some of the color return to its strange, shifting hide. When it was done, the creature crawled closer, settling against Flynn's leg, the unbroken one. Warmth radiated through his suit. Flynn leaned his head back against the bulkhead and closed his eyes. 3 hours and 40 minutes of oxygen left. He just spent his margin on a dying alien. Worth it, he thought. He must have drifted, because when Flynn opened his eyes again, the creature was gone, and something massive was blocking the breach. Flynn's heart hammered as his helmet light swept across the shape. Too big. Easily 4 meters tall, crouched in the torn opening of his ship, and the light caught eyes. Dozens of them, arranged in clusters across a head that was all angles and chitinous plates. The same oil-sheen colors rippled across its body, but these weren't gentle. They pulsed with something that looked like fury. The creature he'd fed was pressed against the larger one's chest, protected by a limb as thick as Flynn's torso. Mother. The word arrived in Flynn's mind with absolute certainty. This was the mother, and he'd been alone with her child, and every primitive part of his brain was screaming that he was about to die. The mother's head tilted, studying him, those clustered eyes reflecting his helmet light back in fragmented patterns. Flynn couldn't move, could barely breathe. His broken leg was useless, his emergency beacon dead, and even if he'd had a weapon, it wouldn't have mattered. This thing could tear him apart before he finished pulling a trigger. The small creature chirped. That same sound, but stronger now. It squirmed in its mother's grip and pointed one tiny limb at Flynn. The mother went completely still. Seconds stretched. Flynn counted his heartbeats. 14, 15, 16. Then the mother moved, and Flynn flinched, but she wasn't attacking. She was reaching past him. Her massive limb extended, careful and precise, and plucked something from the debris behind his head. His emergency oxygen canister. The spare. He'd forgotten he had it. She held it out. Flynn stared. His hands shook as he took the canister and connected it to his suit. The gauge climbed. 12 hours. Enough to make it to the next salvage window. Enough to live. "Thank you," Flynn said, because what else could he say? The mother's colors shifted, softened into something that might have been acknowledgement. She gathered her child closer and began to retreat through the breach, back into the dark. "Wait," Flynn called. She paused. "What are you?" The mother's head turned, every eye fixed on him at once. And though she made no sound, Flynn understood. The answer arrived the same way the word mother had, not in language, in certainty. Forgotten. Then she was gone, and Flynn was alone again with 12 hours of oxygen and a story no one would ever believe. Quick pause. If this story has you hooked, subscribe now and hit the bell. Now, back to it. The salvage hauler that found Flynn 3 days later didn't believe him. "Neural shock from the crash," the medic said, scanning his vitals. "Oxygen deprivation can cause vivid hallucinations. You're lucky you had that spare canister." Flynn didn't argue. He'd learned long ago that some things you kept to yourself. He filed his report, accepted his medical discharge, and took the settlement money the UEF offered, enough to disappear. Enough to forget. He bought a small station-side apartment on Nexus Outpost Gamma and spent his days in the observation deck, watching ships come and go through the repaired threshold gate. Months passed. His leg healed. The nightmares faded. He told himself the medic was right. Hallucination, trauma, the mind protecting itself. Then the reports started coming in. Ships going missing near the Ashpool colony routes. Not destroyed, just gone. UEF sent investigation teams. They found wreckage, but no bodies. No answers. The pattern was wrong for pirates. Too clean, too selective. And there were marks on the hulls. Massive claw marks that matched no known species. Flynn watched the news feeds and said nothing. 6 months after the salvage hauler found him, Flynn saw her again. He was leaving the observation deck, late shift, corridors nearly empty, when he rounded a corner and stopped dead. She stood at the far end of the hallway. Not the mother, the child, but grown now, easily the size of a human, though her proportions remained alien. That same oil-sheen hide, those same black, reflective eyes. She wore clothes, rough spun fabric in deep burgundy that draped across her 6 limbs in a style that suggested purpose rather than decoration. And her face, which had been all instinct and need when Flynn found her, now held something that looked like intelligence, like recognition. "You," Flynn breathed. The creature tilted her head. Her colors shifted to soft amber. She took a step forward, and Flynn noticed her hands. 4 of them. Delicate fingers that were slightly too long. She reached into a pouch at her side and withdrew something small. A protein gel pack. Empty. The same brand Flynn had fed her. "You kept it," Flynn said. She made a sound. Not the whimper from before. Something melodic, layered, like 3 voices speaking in harmony. Then she spoke, and the words were in station common, accented but clear. "You saved me." Flynn's throat tightened. "Your mother saved me." "Yes." The creature stepped closer, close enough that Flynn could see the luminescent markings along her neck, fine as circuitry, pulsing with a soft blue light. "She sent me to find you." "Why?" The creature's colors shifted again, darker, troubled. "Because others of my kind are coming, and they do not remember what you did." Flynn felt ice slide down his spine. "The missing ships." "Yes." She looked away, and her markings dimmed. "My people were hunted, scattered. We learned to hide, to forget, to survive by being forgotten. But some have forgotten too much. They see only threat, only hunger." "And your mother?" "Still remembers." The creature met his eyes again. "Still believes some humans are worth saving. She wants you to come with me, to help us remember before it is too late." Flynn laughed. It came out bitter. "I'm nobody. Discharged cargo hauler with a bum leg. What could I possibly do? You fed me when you had nothing to spare." Her markings brightened slightly. "That is everything." The station lights flickered. Once, twice. An alarm began to wail in the distance. The creature's head snapped toward the sound, her entire body going rigid. "They are here," she whispered. Flynn grabbed her arm without thinking. 4 arms, he remembered. She had 6 limbs total. "Who?" "My people, the ones who forgot." She pulled away, gentle but firm. "You must hide. They will kill anyone they find." "What about you?" She turned back to him, and for just a moment, Flynn saw the small, dying creature from his wrecked ship, helpless, afraid. Then her colors hardened, shifting to deep crimson, and she was something else entirely. "I will try to make them remember." She ran, and Flynn followed, because sitting still and dying wasn't who he was anymore. Maybe it never had been. They sprinted through the corridors as the alarm escalated, as blast doors began to seal, as the station's automated defenses came online with their calm, mechanical warnings. The creature was fast, impossibly fast. Flynn's legs screamed with every step, but he pushed through, following the amber glow of her markings through the chaos. They burst into the main concourse just as the viewport shattered. No, not shattered. Torn open. 3 of them poured through the breach. Massive, adult. Their colors were all wrong, jagged patterns of black and blood red that pulsed with aggression. They moved like predators, like living nightmares, and the few civilians still in the concourse didn't stand a chance. "Stop!" The creature who'd brought Flynn here stepped forward, and her voice carried that triple harmony, but louder, commanding. "These are not prey." The largest of the 3 rounded on her, its clustered eyes fixed, and it made a sound that was nothing like the melodic tones she used. This was grinding, hostile. She responded in the same language, and though Flynn couldn't understand the words, he understood the tone. Pleading, reasoning, desperate. The large creature backhanded her. She flew 6 meters and crashed into a support pillar. Flynn was moving before conscious thought, dragging himself to her side as her colors flickered weakly. Blood, luminescent blue, leaked from a gash across her shoulder. "You need to run," she gasped. "Not happening." Flynn looked around. The station security forces were arriving, weapons raised, but they were designed for human threats, not this. He needed something else, something that would matter. The protein gel pack, still clutched in the creature's hand. Flynn took it, stood, walked directly toward the 3 massive aliens with a broken leg and an empty gel pack held high. "You remember this?" Flynn shouted. The largest creature paused, its head tilted. "6 months ago, one of you was dying in a wrecked ship. Small, hurt. I gave it food, I gave it my oxygen margin. Flynn's voice cracked. Your children still remember kindness. Do you? The creature's colors shifted, confusion rippling across its hide. My mother, the injured creature said from behind Flynn, forcing herself upright. She spoke in station common, deliberately, so Flynn would understand. He fed me, protected me. We owe him life debt. The word hung in the air. Life debt. Flynn watched the three massive creatures exchange glances, their colors fluctuating rapidly. Some kind of communication he couldn't follow. Then the largest stepped forward and Flynn braced for impact. It knelt, slowly, deliberately. Its massive head lowered until its clustered eyes were level with Flynn's. And it spoke, voice grinding and rough, but the words were clear. We remember now. The creature reached out one massive limb and touched Flynn's chest. Gentle, almost reverent. Then it turned to the breach and called into the darkness beyond. The sound was immense, layered with harmonics that Flynn felt in his bones. Shapes moved in the dark, dozens of them, the forgotten species, drawn by the call. They poured through the breach, but not as invaders, as something else, as witnesses. The creature Flynn had saved stepped to his side. Her colors had stabilized, markings glowing steady blue. You showed us we do not have to be forgotten to survive, she said quietly. You showed us we can be seen and still be safe. Over the next hours, Flynn watched as the station authorities negotiated with the assembled aliens. Watched as the forgotten species, now remembered, agreed to terms. Safe passage, trade routes, a fragile peace built on the memory of one act of kindness in a broken ship. The creature who'd found him stayed by his side throughout. She told him her name, though his mouth couldn't shape the sounds properly. He called her Echo instead, and she seemed to like it. What happens now? Flynn asked, when the authorities finally let them leave the concourse. Echo's colors shifted to soft violet. We rebuild. We teach the others what we have learned. That being forgotten was survival, but being remembered can be life. She paused, and her markings dimmed slightly. Will you help us? Flynn thought about his apartment, his quiet life, his careful isolation. He thought about the small creature whimpering in his wrecked ship, and the mother who'd given him oxygen when she had every reason to kill him. Yeah, he said, I'll help. Echo's markings brightened like stars. 3 years later, Flynn stood in the observation deck of the newly built Covenant station, watching human and alien ships move through the lanes together. Trade, cooperation, a peace that still felt impossible some days. Echo was beside him, taller now, more confident. Her colors settled into a permanent pattern of deep blue with silver traces. She'd become an ambassador of sorts, the voice of her people to humanity. And Flynn had become something he'd never expected, a bridge. Do you ever regret it? Echo asked. That day in your ship? You could have saved your oxygen, lived easier. Flynn smiled. Living easier isn't the same as living. Echo's tail, long and expressive, curled gently around his wrist, a gesture of affection her people shared. My mother asks about you, she said. She wants to meet again, properly. I'd like that. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the ships, until Echo spoke again. There is something I never told you about that day. Flynn glanced at her. I was not lost by accident. I was left. Echo's colors darkened. I was sick, weak. My mother's pack was starving. The others said I would slow them down, that I would get them killed. So they left me in that wreckage to die. Flynn's chest tightened. Echo. But my mother came back. Echo's markings pulsed brighter. She left the pack, abandoned safety, came back for me and found you." She turned to face him fully. "You saved me with food and oxygen, but you saved her too. Saved her from becoming what the others had become. Saved her from forgetting what it means to protect the weak." Flynn didn't have words. Echo's 4 hands found his. "We are not forgotten anymore, Flynn Cross, and neither are you." Outside the viewport, a massive ship approached. Not human design, ancient, beautiful. Its hull covered in the same oil sheen patterns, shifting colors in the light. The mother's ship. Echo's tail tightened around Flynn's wrist. "She is here. I see her. Are you afraid?" Flynn thought about the question, about the broken creature he'd been when his ship went down, about the man he'd become in the years since, about all the ways kindness could echo forward, changing everything. "No," he said. "I'm grateful." The mother's ship docked, and Flynn watched as the airlock cycled. The massive creature emerged, colors shifting to warm amber as her clustered eyes found him through the viewport. Recognition, respect, and something that looked like joy. Echo led Flynn to the docking bay, and he walked forward to meet the creature who'd once terrified him, who'd saved him, who'd sent her daughter to remind him that isolation wasn't safety. It was just another kind of death. The mother knelt as she had 3 years ago, and Flynn reached out to touch her massive head. Her colors rippled with warmth, and though she spoke no words, Flynn understood. "Family," she was saying. "You are family." And in the space between stars, in a station built on impossible peace, Flynn Cross finally believed it. He knelt beside the mother, and Echo joined them, her markings blazing bright, and together they stayed there until the light from the gate washed over them all.